Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Well, it's freight market update time where we take a look at how the trucking market has changed week over week. Now, again, unfortunately, this week I don't have any fantastic news for you guys in terms of the market, but as always, at the end of this video, we're going to compare the data to the experience. So let's look at the capacity, volumes, rejections, and diesel prices in the general market, and then look at spot market conditions for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. Ready? Let's go! All right, we're going to start with capacity, of course, and I'm going to attach all the charts right here while I look at mine on the computer. Capacity week over week. Last week, we lost a net of 146 MC numbers. Now, in terms of the spot versus contract rates, what we're looking at is to see how much more do contract carriers get paid than those spot carriers. And the lower that line is, the bigger the margin between what contract carriers earn and what spot carriers earn. As you can see, the margin is growing since I think the middle of January. And currently, contract carriers are getting paid on average 54 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. All right, now we have to talk about volumes in the general market. The green line is 2024, the blue line is 2025. And yeah, we have been trending below 2024 levels, unfortunately, and it seems like the volume continues going down in the general market. Now, what about rejections? Again, rejections used to save us. At least in 2025, rejections were pretty high, relatively speaking. Unfortunately, as you can see, rejections have fallen off a cliff and continue going down. They're still above 2024 levels, of course, but yeah, currently rejections are at 5.65%. Last but not least, we have our diesel prices, which, yes, have been trending below 2024 levels, at least during this time last year. However, as you can see, diesel is not really going down. On the contrary, it's ticking up slowly. And currently, the average price per gallon, according to truck stops all over the US, diesel prices are at 3.69 or $3.69 per gallon. All right, now let's get into the spot market conditions, and we're going to start with dry vans. These charts, the data I get from FTR, and I make these charts. So as you can see, the rate per mile on the spot market for dry vans has decreased by 5 cents per mile, unfortunately. And if we're comparing to this time last year, rates are about 5% lower. Volumes also had a decrease of 11% week over week on the spot market, and year over year, they're 21% lower for dry vans. So now we try to figure out the relatively better market areas for dry vans, and to do this, I use sonar data. The top 5 places where more contract freight from the general market ends up on the spot market are Green Bay, Wisconsin, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Columbus, Ohio. Now, if you take a look to the right, these specific market areas for dry vans are seeing decreasing outbound spot rates across the board, despite the fact that a place like Green Bay, Wisconsin actually has limited truck availability. Everything else is either excess truck availability or Columbus, Ohio has moderate truck availability. Now, if you're wondering which areas for dry vans are seeing increased outbound spot rates, those areas are Houston, Texas, Springfield, Massachusetts, and Bristol, New Hampshire. Now let's talk about the reefers on the spot market. And unfortunately, reefers also did not have a really good week. They saw a 13-cent per mile decrease on average on the spot market, and those rates are also 5% lower year over year. Volumes decreased by 0.2%, so not much week over week, but year over year, volumes for reefers on the spot market are 13% lower than this exact time last year. So in terms of the relatively better market areas, those are Twin Falls, Idaho, Joliet, Illinois, Omaha, Nebraska, Joplin, Missouri, and Chicago, Illinois. Now, with the exception of Twin Falls, Idaho, which is seeing increasing outbound spot rates, Everything else is seeing those spot rates fall. In terms of truck availability, Chicago has excess capacity, Joliet, Illinois has moderate capacity, and then Twin Falls, Omaha, and Joplin have limited capacity. Now, if you're wondering also, where are the market areas that are seeing an increase in outbound spot rates, I'm going to read them off for you. Twin Falls, Idaho, as we said, Missoula, Montana, Reno, Nevada, some of Northern California, Laredo, Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana, all of Florida, which is surprising. Doesn't mean it's a good area. It's just that the rates are increasing there. Augusta, Maine, Detroit, Michigan, North and South Carolina, pretty much all of it, and then Virginia and West Virginia. Finally, we have our flatbeds, and on the spot market, flatbeds also saw a decrease in the rate per mile on average by 1 cent, and those rates are 2.5% lower than this time last year. Now, volumes for flatbeds actually increased. Week over week, they're up almost 12%, and year over year, they're up 25%. Again, since the rates are going down, it just tells me that capacity increased. So in order to figure out better areas for flatbeds, again, I use truck stop data and make these charts. And the first thing we're looking at is, of course, the load map. The darker an area is, the more loads come out of that area. And something I noticed, even though the areas themselves don't really change, it's always the South and the East Coast that have more loads. What has changed is that there are more places that have over 2,000 loads, and all of them are pretty much in the South. Now, in terms of capacity, same concept. Darker it is, the more flatbed trucks in that area. And as always, capacity follows the load volume. So nothing surprising here. Question though, what is the load to truck ratio in these places? Where are there more loads than there are trucks? Anything burgundy red, like New Mexico, for example, this is severe overcapacity with less than half a load per truck. There are less severe overcapacity states now than before, which is great. But anything red is overcapacity. So as you can see, it kind of changed from a lot of states having severe overcapacity to just overcapacity. And the map is pretty much red. And overcapacity is still less than a load per truck. Equilibrium, like Colorado, for example, is around 1 to 1.5 loads per truck, but be careful because this is using load board data, so it might mean that someone is posting their load several times or that trucks are not posted on the load board. Oregon, Washington, and Massachusetts are the places that have slight undercapacity, 1.5 to about 2 loads per truck. Then Louisiana, we have Maryland and Rhode Island is under capacity, 2 to 3 loads per truck. There's moderate undercapacity in Arkansas, Alabama, and Maine, 3 to 10 loads per truck. And of course, Mississippi, finally, we have a place which has severe undercapacity, and that is Mississippi with over 10 loads per truck. Actually, I believe it was 15 loads per truck in Mississippi. So now data versus experience. Last week, we had a really bad experience, and just like I thought, it was due in part because we as a flatbed carrier got stuck in the West Coast, which I described as being kind of a bog. It's impossible to get out once you get in. Now, this week was slightly easier running through the Midwest, the East Coast, some of the South as a flatbed carrier, but the feeling that the market got way more challenging from January is definitely there. Now, someone in the comments last week mentioned that, hey, February is always a slow month, and that is absolutely true. February is historically one of the slowest months in the trucking industry. However, when we take a look at year-over-year data and we compare this February to February in 2024, what we end up seeing is that the volumes in the general market are down, that the volumes on the spot market for reefers and dry vans are down, that the rates for all 3 equipment types on the spot market are also down. So is February usually a slow month? Absolutely. But is it slower this February than last February? Yeah. Unfortunately, it is. Now, what about you guys? What has your experience been like this past week? Did you find some better market areas? Did you manage to stay within those market areas? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining and watching today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.